Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am your host, Michelle Stern. So, we are still on that disgraceful business that went on into a parliament on Tuesday night. Yes. And it is very important that we dissect the happenings through and through because all sorts of things out there. Nikisha Burchell, she went and did a video, and I'll be bringing another video to discuss that. And you're going to be very surprised at what it is I have to tell you, both in this video and the others. I may do 3 or 4 in the day. Can you imagine? Yes. So this particular video is entitled Gross Disorder. Mark Golding and his hooligans are in big trouble, right? And when you hear what I have to say, you're going to be surprised. They think not done yet, so you know. As a matter of fact, everything depends on the government side, whether it done yes or yes or no. And I want the government side to know this. You are some of the bravest people in Jamaica when you decide to take up yourself and go and convince people to vote for you and put you in the parliament. Right? It means you have a job to do and you must do that job. Every young man and young woman who decide to be a policeman knows that at some point they may have to shoot somebody. They may pray that that day will never come. They may want to be a policeman because they want to be a detective, but they may not want to shoot nobody. However, if the day comes and they have to shoot somebody in order to defend themselves or somebody else, then they have to do it. It is just the hazard of the job. Yes, you have persons who decide to become soldiers. And they know that if there are occasions, they may end up having to shoot people, and they may pray hard that the day never come. They want to be a soldier for their own reason. But what happens when the day come? When the day come and they have to make the decision to shoot in defense or shoot because they must fight some war or the other, they have to make that decision. If they don't and they don't want to shoot people and they know them cannot make that decision to shoot people, then they should take a Bible, put under them arm, and go to church and be a pastor or elder in the church. Do not sit in our police force and cannot carry out your duty. Do not become a soldier and cannot carry out your duty. Likewise, as a politician, when you're in the parliament, you may have to take some decisions about some of your members, and you may pray hard that you don't want to be in a position to do that. But when the occasion comes, you have to do your duty. And I am saying to the Speaker of the House and all of those members on the government side, you are now faced with a challenge. A group of hooligans who think them on the political platform, right, in the parliament, and they have been behaving and misbehaving all this while. And now them cross the line. Now, not saying that you could do anything about what they did before, but now them cross the line. What do you do? This is a decision that many of you may not hope. Maybe you hope that you would not have to be put in this position, but you are in the position and it is your duty to act. What are you acting for? For the preservation of our democracy. And you have to take action in order to ensure that the rest of the society sees that certain kinds of behavior from highly placed people, however much power them have, is not tolerated. You fall along on this job and there is no stopping those hooligans. You must act. And in case you don't know, and you can check out the information after I bring it to your attention. Check it out. Don't take my word for it. But You have no option. You must act. You cannot just ignore and sweep it under the carpet. And if that is what you intend to do not go back in our house. Jellyback people is not for the parliament. Jellyback people is a destruction of a nation. Right? You must act. And there is no doubt about that. Or you come out of a parliament. I am sure there are many other work you can do can earn you more than the $14.1 million that you get. Go and go do them. Parliament is not for you. Parliament is for people with stomach, backbone, and guts. And if you got none, you should not be there. Now, before I go on to show you, my people, what it is that these people have done and how much problems them into, provided that the government side ensure that the discipline of the house is maintained, I'm going to ask everyone to please give the video a thumbs up. Go ahead, please give the video a thumbs up and share the video as well. Subscribe and remember to hit that notification bell so that you can get notified by YouTube. And feel free to leave your comments in the comment section. And for all of that, I thank you very much. Very much indeed. So, this matter now of this gross disorder in the house. The first question we need to ask ourselves, and that is what I wanted to know, because I am of the view that what the House prescribed for Angela Brown-Burke is not sufficient for the offense that she committed in the House. The touching of the mace is one thing, but for me, the defiance is quite something else. Now, we're going to have to determine at what point she became defiant, because the House has procedures to follow according to the standing order. And if the government side decide to take action and it goes before the court will have to determine at what point was the order made. Was it at the point where the speaker said outside? And I don't think that can go to court and wash, because the meaning of the word is quite clear as to what it was that the speaker intended for her to leave. Was that the proper procedure? We know that when Floyd Green got up to move the motion, he made mistakes on 2 occasions. First running out Mark Golding, then running out Julian, and then he got it right. So, but it doesn't matter, because at whatever stage she remained defiant, she not moving, and she stand up there with her colleagues, and them sit down and she not moving, and that was it. When the 5-minute break was called, and the marshal went over to her during the break, she then get up and walk out and left her bag on the ground. The question I would like to ask, did she make an attempt to return to the chamber, and was she prevented from doing so? She saw the bag on the ground, she looked down and she saw it because the marshal moved it out of her way. So she knew she was leaving it. It must have been her intention to go outside and come back in. But that is an aside. The question that we want to ask now is, now that we're not satisfied, at least I am not satisfied, I don't know about you guys, me not satisfied, that suspension for one sitting is sufficient for what she did, the defiance. Can the Speaker or the House bring further disciplinary action against Angela Brown-Burke? We also want to know, those MPs that stood up beside her in defiance of the Speaker's ruling that she should leave, are they also in trouble? Can disciplinary action be taken against them? If so, what? These are the questions we're going to be answering in this particular video. So our first question is this. After touching the mace in Parliament and the member is suspended for the remainder of the sitting, can the Parliament take any other disciplinary actions against the suspended member? Now remember, this is just for her touching the mace. The response is yes. And the source of the information is the Jamaica Information Service. It says, after a member of Parliament is suspended for the remainder of a sitting for touching or seizing the mace, the Parliament can take further, more severe disciplinary actions, touching or removing the mace, a symbol of the Speaker's authority and the royal authority in Westminster-style parliaments, is viewed as gross contempt, a breach of privilege, and a deliberate attempt to halt legislative business. So for those persons who may be wondering about these parliamentary rules and whether or not they are necessary, they are absolutely necessary. Why? For the simple reason that it is not 5 or 6 people that's in that chamber. It's 63. And when you have 63 people inside of a meeting, you have to have regulations. You have to say who can speak, when they can speak, and for how long. Otherwise, some people will hog the time and talk and talk and talk and don't want to stop. And then you're going to have quarreling or bust out inside there and so on. So you have these rules in order to give people time to speak on whatever they need to speak to. And they are the ones with the responsibility to condense what it is they're saying in within that time frame. And it is the parliamentarians who made that determination in the first place. I see some risers out there talking about the mace is a relic of our colonial masters. Well, so is the damn parliament. So is the police force. So is the army and the civil service and the courts. It's a relic of the colonial past, right? And the mace represents a relic of the colonial past too. The fact of the matter is it's a symbolic ornament, I suppose you may call it, within the parliament. You either respect it or you keep your ass out of the parliament if you don't want to respect it. Or you move a motion to have it removed once and for all. You don't do none of those things. You are to respect these symbols and whatever else are going on in the parliament. It's as simple as that. Now, when it comes to the further actions that the parliament can take against Angela Brown Burke for her touching of the mace, it says here that she could be referred to the Committee of Privileges. Make a note of that. So there's a Committee of Privileges can be set up. The Speaker may refer the member to this committee. So it's not the Parliament now, it's the Speaker who has the authority to make this referral. So she can refer the member to the committee for formal investigation. And the committee can recommend more severe punishments, such as longer multi-day suspension or a formal reprimand. So they might just say, listen, you're damn out of order. Tap around the back of the arm and hand and say, you're out of order, you shouldn't have done that. Which is probably what would have happened had she taken herself out of the parliament. But she compounded the problem with her defiance. Now, the Committee of Privileges, having investigated the matter, may determine that a long-term suspension is required in the matter before them. Now, in the case of gross misconduct, which is what I do believe Angela Brown Burke was cited for by the Speaker, a member can be suspended for a significant number of sitting days, or even for the remainder of the session. How long is a session? It says a session usually lasts a year. So you have about, if the term of the parliament lasts for say 5 years, then there are 5 sessions, right? So that's what a session is. So the member can be suspended for up to a period of 1 year, or in any event, at the ending of the session, whenever that is, right? So expansion of suspension time, the Committee of Privilege can do so as well. So if the member refuses to leave the chamber after the initial suspension, which is exactly what happened in this case, they may face additional penalties, including suspension for the remainder of the calendar year. So she could be suspended up until December 31, 2026. So at this point, it is important for me to point out to you, my friends, that there were 2 things that occurred in the parliament Tuesday night. 2 offenses, if we may call them offenses. The first one was the touching of the mace. The second one was when Angela Brown Burke was told to leave the chamber by the Speaker, she refused to do so. Right? Her defiance. So it's 2 things you're looking at. And if it is recommended to the Committee of Privileges, it's two offenses they'll be looking at. You follow? Now, the second one is even more serious than the first one. The second one could land her a suspension for up to a year, right? At the end of the session or at the end of the calendar year. Now, it depends on when it is that the session ends in our parliamentary system. So that is what you're looking at so far. Let's see if there's anything else the Committee of Privileges may recommend. Now, in extreme circumstances, it appears as though the Committee of Privileges may recommend expulsion from the House. It says the Parliament has the power to vote for the expulsion of the member, essentially declaring them unfit for membership. And that will happen in extreme cases. Now, if I were there, I would go for the expulsion. Let Angela Brown Burke come and explain herself why she should not be expelled. Because even though she was never cited for any misconduct before, as far as I know, right? If her behavior in the Parliament was disruptive, continuously disruptive, it seems to me that they should go for an expulsion. They don't have to vote for it, they can decide, so okay, they will give her a chance. If she explain herself, apologize, and do all the things that, she probably should do to save herself, then I think they should go for that. I mean, the way in which she was behaving when she was to leave, yes, they were laughing at Green, the leader of government business, for his bumbling of the situation, right? When him said that she was in South St. Andrew and then Southeast St. Andrew until him eventually got it right. But if you look at her general attitude, she drink her water and she don't care and she no business, nobody can move her. That is the kind of attitude that a strong message must be sent, so that if there are any other Angela Brown Burke in future, they will think twice about them attitude in our house. There is this argument that is being put forward that they were not given a chance to speak, and therefore that is what excuses her action. If you look at the video, and I'm going to show it to you shortly, there is nothing about the way she sauntered up to the mace that suggested that she was angry or in protest. It was a joke. And when you see the speaker or hear the speaker, she said, this is not a joke, right? You can't be handling the mace, not even in jest. You follow what I'm saying? So that is one thing. They might be willing to reprimand her for that, but the defiance now is a different story altogether. That is not only defying the speaker's ruling, but the Parliament, they voted on the matter for her to be suspended for the rest of the sitting. Not the rest of the year, not the rest of the term, but for the rest of the sitting of the House, which means that, and my understanding is, come Tuesday, if there's another sitting, she can't go on. She decides she not come out of your house. She's not leaving. She wanted them to be put in the position where they call the constables and to fling her out of the house. She mad? If she's going to argue that it was a moment of madness, let us say it was a moment of madness when she got what the mace. We can look past that. You agree with me? Yes, we can look past that. A moment of madness. But her action after that was not a maddening moment. That is a moment where she believed that she is not going to accept the ruling of the speaker, and she's not going to accept the ruling of the majority in the House, even though the matter about this is supposed to be a democracy, over something that she had actually done. She wrong and strong. You follow what I'm saying? So, indeed, they're saying here, fines or financial penalties, depending on the specific standing orders. A member may also be fined for contempt of the House. We don't know about that yet. But if they decide to take it to the Committee of Privileges, they will decide based upon the evidence and, how bad they think the situation was. They will decide on what the proper course is based upon the standing orders. So when Angela Brown Burke was suspended, that was a disciplinary action that was taken against her by the speaker in a Dondeso. The subsequent actions are in many cases considered contempt, and are handled as separate, more serious breaches. So everything depends on what it is the speaker chooses to do. I believe, Sister Juliet, you should refer the matter to the Committee of Privileges. People tell me in the comment section what you think. You think she should get a chance? And tell me what she should get a chance about, if you're going to give her a chance. It says here that for the formal reprimand, the House, which is the vote, they're going to all vote now, the House may order the member to appear at the bar of the House to receive a reprimand, right? A slap on the wrist. Would you give her a reprimand? And if so, what would you reprimand her for? And if you're going to suspend her further, what would you suspend her further for? Me say, me can deal with the touching of the mace. And I know some of you rough, and you're going to say, no, sir, she could get disciplined for that too, because of what it was she was trying to do. Stop the proceeding, because that clearly was the plan. Them come there to delay the passing of this bill as much as they can, probably to next week, right? These are the risers, and that is how they behave. Anything at all to score political point in a them arena is all right, right? And it don't matter who gets hurt in the process, as long as it serves their own narrow political interests. So that is the situation with Angela Brown Burke. We're now going to look to see now if there's any action, disciplinary actions that may be taken against those members who stood up beside her in defiance of the order of the Speaker and the vote of the House. A motion was moved and a vote was taken, and she was asked to leave, and the marshal came to her and asked her nicely to leave, and she sat down the same way, and the whole of them before them said, come on, Angela, man. Sure, Angela, man. Yeah, make it stay, make it go on. No. They thought them have some power. Them say 28 of them now, So now, according to them, it was 14 before, and they were kind of weak. Now it's 28 of them have more power. And we want to know if Sister Juliet is going to meet them. Some of them not to ask, because Sister Juliet not look like a smart way. You have to ramp with, Me not think so. So, me looking forward to the next sitting to hear if indeed the Speaker refers the matter to the Committee of Privileges. So now we come to the second question. In the case of members of Parliament rising to his feet or to their feet in defiance of the Speaker of the House ruling for the member to be removed by the Marshal, can disciplinary actions be taken against them? What is the answer? Yes. Further disciplinary actions can be taken against those members of Parliament who rose to their feet in defiance of the Speaker's ruling or refuse to be removed by the Marshal. It says, in fact, refusing to follow an order to withdraw often automatically triggers more severe penalties because it shifts the offense from a single act, which is when she touched the mace, of disorderly conduct to gross disorder. And you remember that the Speaker said that? I do believe that's what she said, gross disorder. And indirect challenge to the House's authority. Now, that is the case of Angela Brown Burke, but what about the other members of Parliament that stood up beside her and seemed to have been shielding her from the Marshal? Again, the response is that the disciplinary action can definitely be taken against any other member of Parliament who rises in defiance of the Speaker's ruling to support a colleague. Now, in the Westminster-style parliamentary system, like what we have in Jamaica, the Speaker has broad powers, right? What she have the broad powers to do? To maintain order. That is the reason why she has those powers, because there's 63 of them inside there. And if our business is going to be taken care of, there has to be order. You have to follow the rules. These risers don't want to follow any rules. They believe that if the Prime Minister spoke for 2 hours, which apparently the standing order says he can do, the leader of the opposition should be able to speak for, and them are determined, that the standing order, they don't care about rules. No, the Speaker has these powers to maintain the order so that the business can be taken care of. Whether they acted individually or as a group when they stood up in support of Angela Brownberg is treated as a serious breach of rules. If other MPs stand up to block the marshal or refuse to obey the speaker's orders to sit down or be quiet, they can face the following consequences. Now, in this case, the speaker did not ask them to sit. You remember that? She didn't ask them to sit. But Angela Brownberg was named and ordered to be removed from the parliament. When they stood beside Angela Brownberg at the time, were they in defiance of the ruling of the speaker? And if they were, can disciplinary actions be taken against them as well? And that is a question that we ask, right? So, what now is the answer? So, they stood in defiance. The speaker didn't tell them to sit. The speaker did not name them. So, even if the speaker did not name them, right, or order them to sit at that particular moment, they can still face disciplinary action after the fact. Remember, the matter is going before the Committee of Privileges. So if the speaker were to refer all of those members who were standing in defiance of her ruling to the Committee of Privileges, the Committee of Privileges will be looking into their action and determine whether or not they were in defiance. Remember, when the speaker had the motion read in committee, we're not even sure if it was properly put to the House because the wrong instead of naming the person, the leader of government business actually named the constituency, and he named the constituency incorrectly twice. Now, we don't know if that really matters because everybody knew who it was that they were suspending. I mean, if it was a case where he was suspending Mark Golding and Julian Robinson in error, then would have ordered them out. You follow what I'm saying? So that is something now for them to look into. If it end up before the court, it might be a very interesting reading. Now, it says that they can still face disciplinary action. It says in a parliamentary system like Jamaica's, the speaker's immediate naming is just one method of discipline. So she naming them and ordering them out is just one of the mechanisms of discipline. Other disciplinary actions can be taken after, is basically what it is saying. So even if she never took any action then, she can then come back and refer the matter to the Committee of Privileges for them to deal with it. You follow? That's my understanding of what it's saying here. If members rise in defiance, even without blocking the marshal, so let's say they never blocked the marshal. When you saw Dayton Campbell standing in the passageway, let's say for argument's sake, he was not blocking the marshal from going to her. Their conduct can be addressed through other formal channels later. Let us see what that might be. So that would be called a retroactive referral to the Committee of Privileges, if that were to happen. And it says the most common way to discipline members for conduct that wasn't handled on the floor is a motion of privilege. So we're going to write that down. Make a note of that, it is called a motion of privilege. That is what will have to be moved in order for the Committee of Privilege to be set up. I suppose that is the correct term. Now, the process is that any member, usually the leader of government business, so that will be up to Floyd Green now, can move a motion on a subsequent day, arguing that the defiant member's actions constituted a breach of privilege. So that is what he would be putting forward, or contempt of the House. Right? Now, they say any member, So if Warmy were to be in the House and Brother Warmy, speedy recovery, my friend. Yes, I'm sure all of us would like to have you back in the house. Because when you're not in the house, man, the house is festive. Except for Tuesday night. Yeah, man, it was very festive. So we know and we believe and hope that if Floyd, the leader of government business, gets, weak need in the matter, and Brother Warmy is well enough, him can bring the motion. We hope we can't have this kind of thing in our house at all. At some point when a person is misbehaving, they go overboard. And that, I believe, is the case with Angela Brownberg. Now, there are some persons who want to make the issue the speaker, saying the speaker has a short fuse. No doubt about that. Short fuse indeed. Let me tell you something now. Portia was somebody who also had a short fuse. Like the speaker, Portia had a short fuse. And the Labour Party members knew that she had a short fuse. So when she became Prime Minister, every time Portia get up to say anything and give her a speech in the budget debate, then would always fling some barbs her way in order for her to say something out of the way and have something to talk about. But Portia never, as far as I can remember, succumb to the taunts. She give them dirty looks and she sigh and she breathe and she lock up her jaw tight because she know what they were doing. But she was able to control her short fuse, right? Yes. The Speaker of the House, Juliet Holness, she also has a short fuse, but it appears as though she's not quite so disciplined yet. She's a young woman to lock up her jaw when these people are provoking her, right? Now, I would suggest, Sister Juliet, that an approach so as not to hot up your nerves when these people are, trying to defying you, disrespecting the house, and the like, is not to take it personal. Never take it personal. Just look at it this way. Look at it as them doing for them side of the job. Hear what I say now. Listen to me now. Just be patient. Them doing them job. And for them job is to be as disruptive and delay and do everything what them choose to do in order to, well, in support of some tactics that they have in mind. So not take nothing personal. Just look at it as them, I try something. All you have to do now is to swap them up by looking at the rule book and make them know what the rules say and stop them. That way you will never be angry. You will always be looking at them and saying, aha, oh, them up to something, me no one know up to. And you're going to the rule book because it is not in keeping with the rules and you will never be angry. You follow? But if you start to look at it as them defying your authority, you're going to always get angry, right? No, 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 no. A strategy them I use, and you have to look on the strategy them I use, and use the rule book and defy them that way. And then after that, now you will smile to yourself and saying, you understand? Yes, that is my little suggestion. Yes, man. So let me go back now to the retroactive referral, which can be made by any member of the House, but it is usually done by the leader of government business. They're going to move a motion on a subsequent day, arguing that the defiant member's actions constituted a breach of privilege or a contempt of the House. So those are the two things that he would have to mention in that motion. And then, of course, they put it to the House for a vote and it will pass. And what will the motion be about? For the matter to be referred to the Committee of Privileges, where, of course, they will do the investigations. And this they will do even if the Speaker was silent during the incident. So you may ask the question, so what can these MPs be cited for? Those who stood in defiance, disrespecting the chair. And it says that is Standing Order 43. Under the standing orders of the House of Representatives, simply rising in defiance can be seen as disregard for the authority of the chair. Now, that happens quite a lot of time. I remember when Dr. Peter Phillips had an issue about something. The other stood and he said, I will not sit down. I will not sit down, right? Now, those little things will happen, but we're talking about a case where a member did something against the rules. That member was suspended and that member is refusing to leave. And they stood in solidarity of that member that was suspended from the House. That's a different thing in my view. There is a silence requirement that whenever it is that the speaker stands, the speaker rise, then the other members should sit and, the speaker should be heard in silence. I remember Pernell Charles standing, you remember that? And he said, I rise to my feet, and they were in defiance. Same way? Yes, but that again is a different matter to what we're talking about. Wouldn't you agree? Yes. So in those circumstances, no action was taken against the members, as far as I recall. But this, to me, is an exceptional circumstance. And I believe disciplinary action should be taken against them. I don't know what you think, but I think it should. Here is something else MPs may be cited for: gross disorder without obstruction. So even if they did not physically block the marshal from removing Angela Blomberg, and we're saying that, it is often categorized as gross disorder, standing in defiance of a ruling of the Speaker, even in circumstances when a motion was moved, properly put before the House, and it was voted on that the member should be removed. I do believe that on the third occasion, they were all seated. They were all seated, and Angela was the one that was sitting at the end. So they could not be said to be standing in consolidarity of her in those circumstances. So everything now depends on whether or not the motions that were moved before was properly put before the House. It was put before the committee, and then it was put also before the House in session as the full House. So all of that will have to be considered, right? Yes. So it says if the House decides the action, the House now decides the action was meant to intimidate the Speaker or show contempt for a ruling, they can pass a censor motion too. A censor motion is a formal recorded condemnation that doesn't require naming at the time of the offense. So censor motion is what happened after the fact. It becomes part of the permanent record and can have the political and professional consequences for the MPs involved. Censor motion. Make a note of that to me, people. Censor motion. Make me write it down. Censor motion. Yes. Now, there are other things that can be done about these defiant members, right? Not just moving a censor motion or referring them to the Committee of Privileges. Defiant members may find their privileges curtailed in other ways. Removal from committees. Their party or the House could vote to remove them from influential committees as punishment for unruly behavior. Julian is the chairman of the PAC, and Peter Bunting is the chairman of the PAAC, I believe. And any other one of them that chair any other committee can be removed. You follow? Then there is the matter of public reprimand. The Speaker can choose to deliver a reprimand from the chair at a later date, which is a serious and public shaming of the member's conduct. Well, them not have no shame, so that won't work. You agree with me? Me not think that would work on them. They not have no shame. Them only want to know that them do what them want to do in order to score cheap political points and then make them point and then get away with it. So, me not think that will work, but it is worth a try. Well, she should be condemned for her behavior in addition to everything else. So the long and short of it is that the fact that the Speaker did not ask them to sit, did not name them or said anything about their own defiance. Like they say here, it's not a get out of jail free card, right? The House maintains the right to protect its own dignity and can act against those members as long as a majority agrees their conduct was a breach of parliamentary rules. Had the shoe been on the other foot, and you were stupid enough to put them risers to run this country, and it was a Labour Party people who behaved in that way, what do you think Mark Golding and Peter Bunting would recommend? You think they would have recommend that we ease them up and give them a little black? No, I don't think so. And we're not saying that the government should make sure that them act according to how them believe that they will be treated. But the fact of the matter is, it is your responsibility to maintain the dignity of the House. These bunch of traitors, saboteurs, now turn hooligans. They will do whatever it is that they think they can do and get away with it. It is your responsibility as the custodian of our parliament, I'm talking about you on the government side, to make sure that you keep not only your members in order, and you have done so, you have to make sure that you keep them other ones in order too. It is you And you alone who's supposed to do that because they're not going to do it. Who are the persons who stood in defiance of the House? Everybody that I could see in the shot, with the exception of Isaac Buchanan. Isaac Buchanan never stood up. There was one stage when the initial stage when they stood up, Zulika just had stood up. But after you see the shots, she was actually sitting down. So she and Isaac Buchanan are the only two that I saw sitting down. Everybody else was standing. Some of them came out of their seats and stood beside Angela Brown Burke. The rest of them, they rose, but they did not leave their seat. So they stand where the seat was in solidarity, in defiance of the speaker's ruling. So you have your culprits, and the cameras that are in the parliament will point them out. And I am of the view that something must be done. It cannot go unpunished. After the speaker announced that we are no longer in committee but in parliament and asked the marshal to raise the mace, the marshal was motioning them to sit down and decide to obey the instruction of the marshal. This is a message that they are sending the speaker. We don't have respect for you. We're not listening to you. Who we're listening to is the marshal. And them sat down. But look at what Dayton Campbell did. Dayton Campbell drew his chair from the position in which it's supposed to be and put it in at the passageway like him at the Guardian for Angela Brown Burke. And you, Mr. Floyd Green, you are going to allow this to stand? The risers them taking away house, the puppy show, and uno go allow that to stand? Well, I am waiting to see next week Tuesday, when the house come in session again, if it does, what precisely uno going to do. I wait with patience. Well, folks, that's where I'm going to leave it for today. I should be bringing another video later on with Nikisha Burchell. She did one video, oh no, don't want to miss that, for it looked like she gone off a fear rockers. Mad woman in a clean clothes, what else must I say? When you see it, you will understand what I'm talking about. But let me close off this particular video. I want to thank everyone for being with me, for sharing, for giving the video a thumbs up, subscribing, and leaving your comments in the comments section. Until next time, take very good care of yourselves and walk good.